Chapter 9 in Yirmiyahu forms the main part of the Haftorah that we read on Tisha B'Av morning. In it, Yirmiyahu describes the reasons for the ultimate destruction and exile from the land. The situation he describes is of a society which has broken down. The Jews have become treacherous people, lying and cheating even to one another. The Navi describes a society in which each person must guard themselves from their friends, because friendships are false and trust is easily betrayed. At the surface level, people seem to want peaceful relationships, but in their hearts they are plotting to bring everyone else down. Reacting to this, God says, Ha'al eile lo afkad bam ne'um Hashem, im begoy asher kazeh lo titnakem nafshi. For these sins will I not punish them? Will I not seek vengeance from such a nation? This reading at a glance is already tragic. The Jews have become morally empty, and God is repulsed and angered by their behavior. However, threaded through the chapter is the indication that in addition to the moral failing the Jews faced here, there was also a fundamental spiritual failure as well. There are 3 points in the parak where Yirmiyahu seems to describe that the moral failing of the Jews came in tandem with a lack of knowing God, of Yidiyat Hashem. In Pasuk Pet, we get the description, V'yidrichu et l'shonam kashtam sheker, v'lo le'emunah gavru ba'aretz, ki me'ra el ra'a yatzau, ve'oti lo yad'u ne'um Hashem. They bend their tongues like bows. They are brave in the land for treachery, not for honesty. They advance from evil to evil, and they do not know me, says Hashem. In Pasuk Hey, we see this phrase again, Shivtecha b'toch mirma, b'mirma me'anu da'at oti ne'um Hashem. You sit in deceit, and through their deceit they refuse to know me, says God. Finally, at the end of the parak, God declares that someone who is wise shouldn't take pride in their wisdom, someone who's brave shouldn't take pride in his bravery, and someone who's rich shouldn't take pride in his wealth. What should a person take pride in? Haskel v'yadoa oti, in thinking carefully and knowing me. Ki ani Hashem oseh chesed mishpat utzedakah ba'aretz, because I am God, who does kindness, judgment, and justice in the land. Ki be'ele chafatzti ne'um Hashem, because these have I desired. What exactly does it mean to know God? And how does this relate to moral corruption? The relationship between God and the Jewish people is at some level a community. God, so to speak, enters our midst and acts as a parent, friend, and teacher. Given this, God's actions to us are not just those of some distant deity who is decreeing things from on high. Rather, they're gestures full of affection and full of rich lessons which are supposed to inform our own behavior. We know about God's acts of kindness. We know about his relationship with our forefathers. We know about him keeping us alive in the desert when we were helpless. We know about his forgiveness in the face of our many sins. And we know about God's commitment to justice. He heard our cries of pain in Egypt and toppled Egyptian society to take us out. He listens to the cries of the downtrodden, the widow, the orphan, and the poor, and he exacts punishments measure for measure with the greatest amount of mercy. These acts are meant to elicit from us a twofold response. The first is in terms of our relationship with God, to respond to God's care by caring for him in return. And the second is to internalize the ethical messages of God's actions and make them our own, by acting in these ways ourselves. It is this intimate understanding of the ways in which Hashem interacts with the world, which are expressed in the term knowledge of God, Yidiyat Hashem. This is what it means to know God. We can't know God directly, but we can know the way that he acts within the world in an intimate and deep way. In Yirmiyahu's day, Bnei Yisrael had forgotten these lessons. Their society had degraded into a hostile environment without trust or care for other people. At its root, the drive for deceit is through selfishness. I want things for myself, and therefore I'm willing to deceive and trick other people to get them. Over the course of time, this selfishness becomes a value which displaces the lesson of selflessness that we were supposed to learn from the ways of Hashem, from the way that God interacts in the world. It is this deceitful and selfish behavior, in this way, which distances us not only from other people, not only from each other, but also from God, by pushing God, Yediyat Hashem, and the presence of God, to the margins of our lives and community. The Perek leaves us with a call to action. If we want an accomplishment to be proud of in our lives, we need to strive to remove all personal goals. Wealth, knowledge, bravery are all things that we seek at the end for ourselves. These are not things that we ought to be proud of ideally. The only true accomplishment in life is to seek to know God through His actions and to commit oneself to the selfless act of pursuing help for others through kindness, judgment, and justice. The message of Yirmiyahu is pertinent at this time of year, leading up to Tisha B'Av. We always talk about sinat chinam, baseless hatred, and the need to uproot it. In this perek, I believe Yirmiyahu is sending us a message that aside from the external effects of acts of deceit and of hatred, there is also a cost at the spiritual level and at the psychological level internally. Selfishness and hatred leave us warped and unable to understand God, to know God, and to understand the actions of Hashem as they relate to our lives. Now is the time to think deeply about the ways of Hashem and to internalize their message, to be kind, to care about others, and to place their needs ahead of our own. In this way we can come closer to each other, we can come closer to God, and, God willing, we can come closer to the Mashiach. She'avo b'mhera b'yamin.